Was this one of the original sheds on the farm?
This is the original shed.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, how would you call it, like a trigger's broom off Only Fools and Horses. It's had 100 new stales and 50 new heads, but it keeps going. It's nothing flash.
Yeah.
It's great milking cow housing in the shoulders for a short period. Predominantly dry cow housing. You wouldn't want to be setting up a winter milk system on this, really.
Yeah.
You know, you can see it's okay, and it's means to an end for us. Yeah, it's fine for spring calving.
Yeah.
The roof blew off, I think it was 2015, 2016, and it had a new roof that gave it at least a life. Or if it wasn't for the roof, it could have been different right now. So.
But again, it's something that was traditional to a time.
When we moved here in '96, this was the business.
Yeah.
It was automatic scrapers, and we milked Holsteins out of it. And yeah, but the things have moved on now. These passages are very narrow. They very quickly fill. Yeah.
So how many cows can you winter here in this alone, say?
This is a 120 cow shed, but with its own feed passage in the middle.
Yeah.
And then we've got the newer cubicles, which you can have a look at.
Yeah. You've slipped throughs in a few places, I see. You're obviously fans of that.
If you don't fit through, you don't get a job.
Just on your silage pits there, you've used your railway sleepers again for the side. So
Yeah. I think if you built a new one now, this is a pre-80 whatever. So the earth bank wall is still is legal.
Yeah.
If you know, I couldn't extend this pit now, it'd then be condemned. It'd be illegal. I'd have to panel it.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Yeah.
The slope is probably pretty good as well. It's safe enough for people.
Oh, that is one thing about this earth bank pit, is no one's ever going to fall off the side.
Yeah.
Like a panelled wall, they are quite dangerous. And I've never worked on one of
The
those.
back of it's actually the same level as the field. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's a shame the law's changed, because it'd just be perfect to dig another 20 metres out the back, but it's just how it is.
So are cows self-feeding off that then?
No. This is all feeder.
Yeah.
Johnny will run you through this here.
Yeah, we brought a forage box across from Holland. Pretty hard to find them over here. We don't do any mixing of feed anyway here. It's just straight silage and the forage box.
Yeah, maybe a bit of straw.
Yeah, obviously the only breakdowns we have are like a small keyway snapping, which is an easy fix. Very easy to use, and this holds, well, it's like rated to 10, but you probably fit 9 in it. One of the biggest things we found the benefit of using this, whenever we feed, we always feed the whole day at a time, but like in dry periods, used to feed for 2 days, and the silage is in quite a lot of blocks, you know what I mean? Never even putting it through this with 3 rotors in the front, and the intake from the cows just went up massively because it was all nice, fluffed up and available, like more bioavailable for them. Where when we were feeding with the grab and the bucket, there was an issue, a lot getting left over, and sometimes was not eating it quick enough, like.
Okay.
Yeah, and we just have a small New Holland T6020 on the farm, and 2 scraper tractors, but that's to do the other one in the winter as well, Manitou.
Yeah.
Limited.
So you've staying on the machinery theme again. Then you're
spreader bale.
Yeah.
That's a massive lifesaver. I don't know if he showed you the carving pen round the other side is a limited size. It has to be bedded every day or even twice a day sometimes. And it did actually get to the point, just due to staff, it was me and him spreading endless bales every single day and taking our valuable time up in a period of the year it's most important to us.
We'd used half the straw with that.
Right.
It's just spread so much better.
Yeah.
And then obviously leading on to that, we brought the small bedding machine, which was another life changer as well, that has a brush on the front as well. So ignoring that cubicle shed, but all the new cubicles, you know what I mean, it can all be brushed off nicely and bedded, and that's been another, it's helped.
It's fine bedding 150 cubicles by hand, but then now we've got north of 400 cubicles. You know, we've got 330 indoor and 120 outdoor. Bedding all those up, bedding all the indoor ones up was a massive job.
It's made the job quicker in the morning, so you finish earlier, but we come from like a rugby family. We were fine with physical work, but then obviously expecting other staff to spread 3 Heston bales of straw and then fork out 8 bags of sawdust. It's a big ask.
Yeah.
And it's made that factor a lot better on that side.
So time-wise, if you didn't have that, how long would you be doing it manually? Say, the cleaning cubicles and bedding them?
You'd well, an hour, like.
An hour plus, yeah.
What will that do then?
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Very simple machine again. Like, all machinery purchased here. I don't like depreciation.
Yeah.
Yes, it's got to last and it's got to be simple.
So when was this shed built then?
This was built, the 3 have been put up over a 5-year period through cash flow. And there's only a certain amount of area, so it was getting as many cubicles as possible into this shed. In an ideal world, if you were a purist, say you're milking Holsteins throughout the winter, you probably wouldn't have cubicles up to the door because the wind blows in a bit and what have you. A bit of rain goes on the end of the bed, but for us it was just maximising the amount of cubicles we could get in this shed to take us away from some of the outwintering on the heavy land, which wasn't possible here.
Right.
But like this year, because of the weather, we barely milked them in the spring because the cows were turned out so early. And we dry off by the 16th of December and we start on the 1st of November. So it's very limited cows that we're milking in the back end. Yeah.
A typical year they'll be housed at night in February and housed at night in November. But this year they were out day and night in February.
Such a good spring,
They only came in for a few nights in the worst of the weather in March. Yeah.
So you're using the precast cubicle then?
Yeah, they come over from a firm in Northern Ireland. It kept. Got another brother. He helped do the bigger steel work of the shed, and then we installed the cubicles ourselves. The beauty of these precasts is it kept a builder off the farm, so we could do a lot of it ourselves then.
Right. Are they sitting on concrete or are they just sitting on a stone?
Just on a small lip of concrete and then stone under the rest.
Yeah, just MOT, wasn't it?
Just obviously because with my dad and me, and obviously the older workmen we have are all quite hands-on and good at building, so we lay a lot of the concrete ourselves and lay all the cubicles and put them all together ourselves, the lots. So it sort of helped having 2 managers plus my dad here. We've been able to go off and do projects like that. Might be different if you're just on your own. So.
Slurry channel here, so
we've just installed these. We had a grant because the yard are all completely broken up, so we got a grant to renew the yard, so then it just made sense to put the channels in at the same time. It was going to be the only opportunity, and it just makes scraping up slightly more efficient in the mornings.
So how often are you scraping these here then, say in the winter?
When they're all dry, because most of the winter they are all dry, it'll be a once a day scrape, but they're on a lot of like dry feed then, a lot of haylage, so the muck isn't too the slurry's not too wet, so it tends to stand at just a daily scrape.
And so like if you continue your team of minimising capex, you won't be putting in, say, automatic scrapers there as such?
No, I don't think we would.
Happy with
on a spring system, like you've still got staff about in the winter and they need something to do. So, I don't mind, as long as they're not at it all day, it's a good job for...
Yeah.
Quite often you'll find people quite enjoy jumping on a scraper tractor and just listening to a bit of music and scraping up for a couple of hours, it's not...
There's a question, about automatic scrapers, isn't it? It's more the piling of muck when they're dragging large quantities down, isn't it? Then it's a reliability, because that shed did have automatic scrapers and you can just forever braking, but maybe technology's moved on.
We've got 2 scraper tractors as well.
Yeah.
So they really can blitz it. And one of the scraper tractors also goes to the young stock buildings, so one can scrape up there and one can scrape up here.
Yeah. So this is your main feeding area, is it?
We built this when we took on a large block of land adjoining the milking platform to accommodate the extra cows, and then we bolted the outdoor cubicles to the outside. They are what I'd call emergency milker housing.
Yeah.
Like, normally by the time we house at night in November, some will already be dry. So we've got 336 indoor cubicles. Normally we dry 100 off and the rest will fit inside. But whereas if it come horrendously wet in October where it's all still in milk, we can use those outdoors for a short period. They're less than ideal, but they're okay.
Yeah.
They're more for dry cow housing. When we dry off completely, with the few extra outdoors, we can fit them all in.
But I know they're massive in Ireland. You come up here on a winter's day in December, every one of these slots will be filled, and you walk in the shed and the shed will be empty.
Yeah, on a sunny winter's day,
they're happy out here.
Yeah.
They like loafing, because the cubicles are actually slightly a bit too big for our cows. They're probably more for Holsteins, but they like loafing on them a bit better.
We've got 121 outdoor cubicles, but that would have been a sizable shed to put up, and we were running out of room a bit here really as well. We're boxed in a bit for various reasons.
Yeah.
So it was just a way of getting the final cubicles over the line. Yeah.
So how many cows can you feed here at any one time, roughly?
This pad here will feed about 350, and then there's another 150 in the old shed there of barrier space. So total, you can feed 500 all at once.
Are you topping up the feed here once a day, or more than once a day here and that? Say when you're feeding here.
Once a day. This
Yeah.
this feed pad will fit 11 to 12 tonne
Yeah.
of silage max. It has been another bonus with the feeder box. We've been able to leave preloads on when in the spring some days you never know what to do in it to feed or not, but it's so quick to get that out and back out, where previously we used to be in a loader bucket, and yeah, it was a big job. So
In the winter, rather than doing mixes, we'll put a set tonnage of silage. We'll put a set tonnage of silage up here each day, and then in the other bigger barrier, we'll fill it up with haylage bales on a Monday, and then just cut a string each day, and they'll nibble away at that all week. So they get a little bit of silage each morning, and then they're on the drier haylage then for the rest of the day. So it in effect creates a dry cow diet for them. It's a simplistic way of doing it, really. Yeah.
Johnny, you're feeding the silage from one side, is it?
yeah, just on the right hand
Yeah,
side
yeah.
because of the pillars on the other.
Yeah.
Ideally, we probably wish we made them a bit bigger, but when we made the pad, we were feeding with a bucket, not a feeder box, and didn't have as many cows.
Yeah.
We wish we built it wider for bales, didn't we?
Yeah.
Right. And say, are you moving out the cows when you're feeding, or do you let the cows in there as you're feeding?
Yeah.
Which works best?
Usually feed when it's empty. Obviously, all the cows will either be milking or on the yard, but you can feed through them. It's not ideal.
It's not
but
ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually empty, like when you're feeding, is the best way.
So what's the door hatch here then for?
That's so you can open it and clean
Scrape
it out.
them out.
Yeah.
We have talked about making a device that would sweep the troughs out. You can see here there's a bit of trash in here from the end of the clamp where we fed the last bit of the clamp out in April. Yeah.
But you found again with the feeder box, previously we were forking these out all the time, filling it with a loader bucket, because you always put too much in and not enough, or it just didn't break. It wasn't like edible enough.
The feeder box gives a much more even spread of silage throughout the.
Yeah.
And then last winter we've upgraded all the indoor troughs on farm now to rapid empties.
Yes, I see you've quite a few around, or you've water trough options there in places.
It's just something we learnt off the house guys really about having clean. You tend to get away with it a bit more in the field because it's out in the middle of the field where nothing can blow into the trough.
Yeah.
It's got all the sun shining into it, the UV's clearing the water, whereas the troughs inside can get very dirty and very skanky very quickly. So these rapid empty troughs now, we can just empty them daily and change the water, keep them clean.
So you've used your bark mulch idea here again for as your cows
This really
exit.
wants concreting into steps in the long term, but because it's such a steep. The track was there before the feed pad, and it was how you get them up that steep bank back onto the sleeper track, so that the wood chip's a lot kinder on the feet than having to go up a steep concrete hill to get back on the track.
It works into the story of this farm, the bank. It's why we're so limited on cow numbers, because whatever we do, if we extend the pile, we need a bigger lagoon, more sheds, and we're all built into this big bank. Nothing's easy. It's why we really, we're happy where we are with it.
Yeah.
So
all your slurry's coming to this point here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just in the process of completely refencing it.
Yeah.
you pump across to the big lagoon there.
Yeah.
And then obviously where you were with the heifer block, it's all umbilical corded, like 1.5 miles all the way up there. Don't use a tanker much at all here. It's all like triple barred or.
Yeah. So calf rearing, it's a busy spring.
Yeah.
You have a lot of calves to manage.
Process.
So your father Richard does a lot of this, is that right?
Yeah, he enjoys the struggle.
Yeah.
But we've got it set up. He's put a lot of time into this, and we have, making it efficient so he can do it all on his own should he have to.
Yeah.
And it's all set up with boilers wired up in here. Proper milk mixers, not a drum and a drill like what we used to do years ago.
It's all powder, Ben, is it? Is it
Sorry?
powder or whole milk?
They go on ad lib whole milk for 2 weeks on twice a day feeding. And I think they then transition over onto once a day feeding, then completely, and then they'll transition onto powder at 2 weeks old, and then they'll be weaned at 8 to 10 weeks. Yeah.
We have an in pump that alkaline comes direct from the parlour, so we can pump milk straight across.
We can send the colostrum straight across from the parlour into here. And then he's got this large area. I know it's full of various, so that it's storage this time of year, but he's got this large area to work in.
The milk mixer never moves for his powder, and you can pipe it out.
And then he's got one long central passage with all the pens off left and right. And he can, with his concrete in the middle passage, it's easier to roll. It's easier to access and walk rather than uneven hardcore.
Yeah.
The gates, rather than, you know what it's like when you hang a gate on hang a feeder on a hurdle.
It's high as well.
Keels over, and otherwise they sit nice and level on here. He's got himself notice boards erected so he can list what's in each pen.
Yeah. So there's divisions there at every pillar then?
Yeah, there'll be a division here.
Yeah.
Pens are 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Carbon pens straight at the end, quite easy, bring them straight out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the carving area.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll completely steam clean this through the winter period. We'll go through every single gate and trough, and you know, just simple stuff like upgraded to plastic troughs over metal. Because you'd be surprised how the intakes of concentrate drop when the trough's rusty.
Okay.
They don't like it. They soon smell it when it's not. Whereas these can be cleaned.
And access to water then, say?
Yeah, they'll have access from day one.
Yeah, small troughs.
My dad still runs on an old-fashioned bucket system.
For water?
For water, so he knows exactly how much that pen's drank.
Right.
And then he'll change it. He'll change it all in the morning, and quite often he'll come, even when they're on once a day, he'll come round again at 4 o'clock and change any buckets that have been soiled or anything like that to keep it fresh all the time for him. Yeah.
As I'm looking down here, Johnny, at the one area where you have spent is your fertiliser spreader.
It was still second hand when we brought the spreader. It's brought from the east side of the country, a bit nicer to machinery for that way. Yeah. More arable. But yeah, that holds 2.5 tonne of fert, and it's got also weigh scales on, sat nav in the tractor. Spread's pretty accurate all around the farm, so we follow the cows with it. Yeah. Obviously that tractor's the same tractor used with the feeder box. There's no other requirement for anything else. It works quite hand like.
Yeah.
We'll get a contractor in to help when we're overwhelmed. During calving and fert needs to go on, we'll then ask for help.
Are you out every day with that, say, during the week, or are you
once a week?
Once a week. Okay.
Just behind the cows. Yeah. No, it's pretty efficient tractor. Served as well, really.
We'll go aggressive in the spring with N, and then in the autumn we'll let the clover work a bit harder as that comes through and sit on a longer round in the autumn, and we don't tend to need to use as much nitrogen in the back end then. Yeah.
As we're in the calving area, say when you're in your peak season calving, have you a night person, or do you?
I've got a big camera up there, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
4 best things we put in, all wide. Because the Saltergate farm had a Wi-Fi system, so we just installed these ourselves actually, quite cheaply. And we do have not shut the door policy in the big sink in the first 3 weeks. We'll come and clear the pen like up to 10 o'clock, and then be back in here at 5 o'clock in the morning for another sweep, and then in the day you get sweep quite fast.
Beauties of the cameras, with me and him not living on farm, you can check the cameras, and if it's all quiet, you haven't got to waste the journey to the farm.
Yeah.
You can just be like, oh well, or if there is something calving, then you can come up and check it. Yeah.
Again, on the machinery team here, your sweeper, your rotary sweeper.
Yeah. Bucket brush that is on there.
Okay. Yeah. Effective.
Yeah, just for sweeping yards, clearing silage clamps. If you get a particularly dusty or stony track, you can go and clear them with a bucket brush.
Yeah.
We're pretty low tech on machinery. We don't have a great deal on farm.
You're running 2 Manitous then, is that right?
Yeah, I've got a new Manitou out there, which is the main workhorse. This was just probably an issue when we traded it in. We didn't trade it in at the right time. So we got offered such a low value for it. It actually has a working value for the current state it's in. One of the biggest problems it's when you come to farm this side, it's almost bums on seats at times, isn't it? You have all the workmen to do the milk, and then you get to the middle of the day, and it usually do require a piece of machinery to do something in the field, isn't it?
Sometimes there's an endless queue of work for the load all, and there's a fight to get the load all, so
Yeah.
it just takes the pressure off. I mean, it's not worth a great deal of money for that, but it's just a good overflow machine in the winter.
Put all the work through one outside.
We might send that in the morning. The newer load all and a scraper tractor will operate here, and the older load all and the other scraper tractor will all go up and do the 120 heifers at the other place.
Yeah.
So then you can blitz it all and get it done.
In the dry period, it is all about feeding cows, your main job. So if you're on one load or that man, if you're working to lunch, where this can just for 2 months a year, let you finish at 9 o'clock.
It does take the stress out of the job when you get a breakdown.
Yeah.
You can still operate
Yeah.
in some form. Like normally when it's a bit like in the summer when the quad bike breaks, the farm comes to a standstill. Same as in the winter, if the load all breaks, you're in quite a lot of trouble very quickly if you don't get it fixed. Whereas at least we've got a bit of a backup here.
I think most farmers would say where they have a loader, it's probably the one machine they don't want to be without.
Yeah.